Hey, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. So let's continue with our plugin based framework and let's do some more advanced stuff. So far what we have is this here. So of course, if you haven't seen the previous videos, check that out and look at the whole playlist. All right, so everything is working fine. And we have this array here that is being echoed. And these things are coming from, if we go to the app class here, this is where that stuff is coming from, the application class. This class is actually the whole application. So everything will run from inside here. But instead of echoing things in here like so, we don't do that in controllers. Normally what we would do is we would create separate controllers per page, but we're not going to do that here. That's how normal MVC works. But here what we're going to do is load content directly here, but using plugins. So to do that, remember that we created a function here called doAction. Where is that? Oh, we haven't created that, have we? Okay, so we haven't created the doAction function yet. So let's go ahead and do just that. So we have all this folder structure here. Great. Well, I thought we had actually gotten to that point already, but apparently not. So let's do that now. So like we did that in a few videos prior, where we had created a simple version of the thing, but let's create the more robust version of doAction here. So I'm going to do action like so, and we're going to create another function as well called add action. So one of these functions adds the action, the other one does the action. So in the same way, we're going to have filter as well. So action and filter here. So we replace action with the word filter like that. Okay, so as we see how to use these functions, it's going to be apparently clear why we have 4 of these functions here. So the first thing we're going to accept in here is a hook. So we're going to call that a hook. The hook is the point, the key to tell us when to run something. So we're going to expect a hook, and this is going to be a type of string. So it's going to just be a string. Now keep in mind that if you're not using PHP 8 and above, though I would advise that you use PHP 8 and above, so just download PHP 8 if you can, because it's free anyway. So if it's PHP below 8, don't put this here, just leave it as hook like that. But we're going to observe good standards, so we'll put that as a string. We're expecting a string here, then we're expecting a mixed value, which we're going to call func. Now remember that, actually not do action, this should be on add action, so sorry about that. Let me move these babies over here. Okay, I think let's just put this at the top, just to keep things in order. So we start by adding, then we do. So let's put the adds on top like so. All right, but it doesn't matter, the order doesn't matter, just for my sanity, I guess. So I'm adding an action, and remember that an action is actually a function that we're adding. So we're going to expect 2 things. First of all, we expect the function itself, okay, that we're going to be given, which is the action that we'll need to take to do at a later time. So then we'll need a hook. Now the hook is used to tell us when to actually run this function. So that's like the key to tell us when the user says, okay, I want a function with this key, run it here. And we're going to do that in the doAction function. So in this case, we want a global variable called actions. And that global variable is right now inside the index page here, and there it is. So we just have to call it and say global actions like so. Why did that happen? So that it knows we are referencing that very item. So we want to add actions to this. So in order to add, we will do actions like that. Why does it keep, I think I copied too much. Okay. So here we're going to grab this function and add it here using the hook. So the hook is the key, remember that. And then within that, we're just adding that function like so. This is all really we are doing. We can return a boolean here at the end. So we can just say return true. Like that. Okay, great. Just in case you want to use this whole function in an if statement, you can do that because you're returning either true or false. Okay, good. So we've added an action to this. So of course, when we say do action, we wanted to get that same action we added at some point and run it again. So in this case, when we say do action, of course, we want that hook to be supplied as well to tell us which action to do. And then instead of the function, because we already have it stored in here, we're going to supply some mixed data. And the data could be an array in this case. So it could be something like, will it be an array? Let's just use mixed here. Mixed data, like so. Okay. I think that works. Now, sometimes we won't have data like that. It's not always that we want to pass something to a function. So what we're going to do is, let's just put this as equal to maybe, so let's use array instead. If it's not going to work, we'll change that later. All right. So all we need to do now is look for that particular item inside actions, and if it exists, then we run it. All right. So in this case, what we're going to do is we're going to do for each, because this is actually an array. So for each actions, right, as key and value. So value here is a function, because we are looping through whatever functions we added in there and looping through here. And then we just want to run those functions one at a time. So here to run that function, we're just going to do func like that, and then put open and close brackets like so. But then in case we have some data, that's what we're going to add here like that. Okay, so all we are doing is just running these functions like so. All right, this is as simple as it gets. So we have add action and do action. So in our case, how do we marry this to the app class? So what we're going to do here, we're going to do something like do action, and the action here, we're going to call it controller. Just like that. We're not passing in any items. Now remember that when you load a page, usually there's the controller part, which is the top that contains the PHP of your page. And then there's the view part, which is at the bottom, that contains the actual HTML. So in this case, what we're trying to do is create these two hooks. So if I want some code to run in the controller, I will use the controller hook. If I want that code to run in the view, I'll use the view hook. It's as simple as that. So that's what we do in here. We just say do action controller, do action view. But things will get a little more robust here. But for now, this is all we need here. So let's test this out and see if it actually does anything. So if I now go to my home page and refresh, we get an empty page, which is good because it means we don't have any errors. So that's great. Now let's go to, we need to actually load some plugins in here. Now, for something to qualify as a plugin, we're going to need it to have two files. One file is the config file, and the other file is the plugin.php file. But for now, let's just deal with the plugin.php file. We're going to edit things as we go. So here, what I really want is to have something like a, let's try the, let's go to the basic auth. Let's start with that one first. Then, because most of these, like the home page plugin is just a view of the home page, so it doesn't really contain anything in the controller. Just like the header and footer, these are more like view plugins because this one just contains the header and the footer. But the basic authentication at least has something to do with controller, and then it gets a view, maybe something like a login page. So let's try and use that. So inside here, I'm going to create a new file and save this one. And this file will be essential called plugin.php. So each folder that you put in the plugins folder, directly in that folder, there should be a plugin.php file. If that file is not found, it's not considered a plugin. So let's put that there. So there we go, plugin.php. And then let's go back to functions here. Now in here, I'll just do some simple code and just say echo, this is the auth plugin, just so we know where we're at, right? Let's go back to functions. In fact, here I want to create another function called dd. I'll do dd like that and just say data, and let's just print readable data like that. And then what I want to do with this is I want to echo a div. So let me echo a div like that. Okay, duplicate that, move that down here like so. Alrighty then. So what I want is to be able to echo anything at any time when I want. I supply some data and then we print that out here. And let me put a few styles here. So I'm going to put a style, and this is going to be some HTML. So I'm going to do background color. Background color will be a dark color, maybe something like 444 there. And then let's say color will be white like that. And let's add some padding of 10 pixels around. Okay, sure, that's great. So that way, instead of me echoing like this, I can just do dd like that and encapsulate that like so. This is the auth plugin. So if I now refresh the page, of course I won't see anything. We're not actually echoing anything yet. We haven't married this plugin to the app here, so we need to do that. So in the functions.php file, there's this part that loads plugins. So it doesn't load anything yet, it just says found true, found false. I'm going to change this one to, instead of found, to loaded. Yeah, just to tell me whether it's loaded functions plugins or not. So there's a folder here. Great, that's the folder. So what I want to do is, let me just do dd folder like that. So I want to see how many folders were found, and let me refresh, and there we go. This is what we see. So I want to change a few things on this function here, this one. Let me add a margin first, maybe 1 pixel. And the padding here, maybe let's do 5 pixels and then 10 pixels like that. Let's refresh. Okay. Alrighty then. Alright, so as you can see, these are the folders here. There's basic, auth, header, footer. That's great. But let's find one that has the... Let's see, wait a minute. What I wanted to check was if it's a full path or not. Okay, so we need to add the plugins.php at the beginning. So I'm going to say file is equal to folder, and in front of folder we're going to put a slash, and also before folder we're going to put plugins here, slash, like that, and then concatenate the folder. And then at the end there, we put the index.plugin.php, sorry. All right, so that's a file we are looking for here. So I'm just going to say if file exists, file. So if that file exists, right? Loaded true. Okay, great. I think let's put that in there like so. Okay. So if the file exists, let's require it. So we're going to say require file. As simple as that. So now that we are requiring all the plugin files in sequence, then that's good. Now, one more thing here we should keep in mind is that look at the order in which these are loading. They are loading in alphabetical order. There's B and then there's H and H. But there will come a time when you want to swap the order of the plugins. Maybe you want the homepage plugin to load first and the basic auth to load second and so on. So you can create the order that you want. Sometimes this is important because, for example, if you're loading the homepage plugin first and the basic auth last, then there's no way the system will know whether this user is logged in or not before loading the homepage, and that might not be ideal. So for example, the basic auth plugin should always come first because it's the one that decides the access or the privileges that a user has. So in this case, we will be able to change this order as well. But for now, let's just show that these things are running just fine. So I'll go back to my page and refresh, and you see now this is the auth plugin. Okay, great. But let's see, the other plugins did not load, you see, because they don't have the plugin.php file. So if I go in here in the header and create a new file, and let's go back here and let's paste. This is the let me save this one as plugin.php. So this one is the header footer plugin, and copy that, and let's do exactly the same thing to the home plugin, and this is the home plugin, plugin.php. Alright, so now we have 3 plugins here, and if I refresh, you will see they are all loading now. That's great. Okay, so now that the plugins can load, let's see how we can add the views here. So let me remove this in the home plugin there. Let's like that. Okay. So inside plugins, we may not always want to echo something, and that should not be the way we do it. So the way we should do is to actually add an action. So here I'm just going to say add action like this. Now the reason we do it this way is so that we can specify when things run in this plugin. Because currently as it is, if I just echo something here like you had seen, it just runs instantly. We load the page. Now I want to be very specific when things should run. This is why I've put these do action. Do I want it to run on the controller part or on the view part? Okay, so here I will put a hook. I want this to run inside the view. So I'm going to say view like that. So this is basic auth, right? And things are running inside the view part. So I'm going to say view. And then I want to supply the action I'm going to do, and that action is in form of a function. So I'm going to do that like so. Okay, so now I can actually supply a function over here, and wait. Okay, so this function will run when I want it. So I'm going to do d and say this is from the view hook. So now let's see if that's going to show. If I now refresh, you see this is from the view hook like that. Now it has run twice, so let's see what's going on here. Let me remove it from here. And it disappears, so it's running twice. So it's not supposed to run twice, and let's see what's going on there. So we add an action here. Let's see how the action was actually added. So I'm going to go to functions here, and let's go to add action here. So once we add this is what we have. Global action. Great. So here I want to just see what's inside actions. All right. So inside actions, there's an array, and there's a key named view, and then there's a closure object. Now a closure object is just a function. So view, one closure. But why is this running twice is the question here. So there's only one item in there, as it should be, but that is running twice. So the error is somewhere else. It's not when adding. Adding just adds things just fine. So once we add, now the do action part, I guess, is the issue. So I'm going to cut that, and before we do any action, I just want us to see what's inside actions at that point. Okay, so it seems like there's one item. We have to know when we reached the end here. So I'm just going to say echo, not echo, I'm going to do d and say end like that. That way we know when it runs, how many times the function has run. So if I refresh, there are two ends here, so which means the function is running twice. So it has nothing to do with what we are doing. It's just that it's running twice. Okay, so the reason this happens is that every time we're ignoring the hook and the do action, every time we run this, let's go back to the app here. It runs here and then it runs there. But both times when it runs, it just runs the same function, or it runs all the functions. So that's what we have to stop. So instead of doing a loop here, what we're going to do is just check if the particular hook exists and then run it. So I'm going to say if not empty actions and then a hook in there, like so. So if that hook exists, let's do that. And so we also do not need the for each loop. So instead, we're gonna grab that function and run it here instead of this func there, like so, and then we run it. All right. So refresh, and there it is. So this is from the hook view hook. Right? So if I come back here now, I've added an action from the view, and now watch this. I will add another action, but for the controller. So keep in mind that I've started with the view item and then the controller. So the order doesn't matter here. Because of the hooks, it will run only when it's needed. So normally, if all this was just running in sequence, you would start by running the view and then running the controller part. But we're going to see the opposite. If I refresh, you see the controller starts, and then that's when we run the view as it should be. And the reason is that it's following the order here. So if I didn't have this do action for a controller, we wouldn't see anything run that would affect that. So only the views are running this time. Okay, now we need a little more than this because we need 3 of each, like so. So we need one that says before controller, because there are times you may want to run some code before even the controller is loaded. And there are times you may want to run something after the controller is loaded. So those are convenient to use. We can just put them there, just like before view and after view as well. Okay, great. Now I also need a function called page, so I can easily check what page we are on. So page will just return the URL here. It will just run this function URL and return the first item in there. So let's see. So in this case, this just returns URL 0, like that. That's all. Okay, good. So I'm going to use that function when I come over. Where is that? What did I want to do? Page, oh, on the app here. Right here. So we want a way to load the page not found or 404. So all of these hooks are fine, but only those that are indicated in the plugin will run. So as you can see, just the controller and view hook did run. All right, so let's keep going. So now that we've loaded a page, I want us to know when the page did not load anything so that we redirect to a page not found, a 404. So I'm going to say before content or be get contents. I'll explain this in a moment after. All right, so we'll put this one here. And this one there. All right, so let me move this like so and like so. Okay, so what we are doing here is this. As the page itself loads in PHP, anything that is echoed within that page or within the loading of the entire website is saved in an output buffer. So that's called OB in this case, output buffer. So imagine it as a piece of memory. The buffer is a piece of memory that stores temporal information before it's sent to its actual destination. So the buffer is the output buffer in this case, and every time you do echo, information is saved, and then when the whole page is done loading, then that output buffer is flashed to your browser. Then you get to see the contents of your page. However, midway through the loading process of the page, you can actually flash the buffer, which means all that information is sent to the browser, and so the user will see partial information on the browser while waiting for the rest of it. So sometimes that's a good thing to do. But in this case, what we want to do is we just want to spy on the information. So we just want to know if this view returned an empty string, and if it did, which means obviously the page was not found, and so we can redirect to the 404 page. And in this case, you may be wondering, what about if the header alone is loaded? Because sometimes you can have a header and a footer, but the contents of the page were not found, right? So the header will go before the view, and the footer will live inside this. So that will have no bearing on the view itself. So we're just checking if the view itself is empty or not. And if it's empty, we consider that a page not found. So at this point, I'm just going to do if. I'm going to do string replace, right? So what are we searching for? So what I'm trying to do is I grab the information before the view, which is this information will obviously be whatever was loaded before the view. In this case, it could be the header, okay? And then getting after the view. And then if the two are equal, for example, the before and the after are equal, then it means nothing was added here, right? And yeah, if nothing was added here, then we have a problem. So what I want to do is I want to replace this with this, and then if we remain with an empty string, then nothing was added here. So what are we searching for? We are searching for before content. What are we replacing with? An empty string. So we grab the before content, replace it with an empty string. And what's the subject? The subject is after content. So at the end of it all, we grab this, replace it with an empty string inside that. And if we remain with an empty string, then the page was not found. So in this case, we're going to have to redirect our page. Now, we can't just redirect our page like this because we could be on the 404 page already, and that is going to create an infinite loop. So I'm just going to say if page is not equal to 404, then let's redirect to the 404 page, like that. Alrighty, guys. So this is how we know when we need to redirect to the 404 page. Now, do we have a redirect function or not is the question. So apparently we don't. So let's create it. So I'm going to say function redirect. And then this one will be page. Oh, let's call it URL, right? So this, what we need to do, first of all, we know it needs to die here because we are redirecting anyway. And then let's do location. No, let's do header. Let's modify our headers. Like that. Okay, but we need the root path as well. So I'm just going to do root. And then in front of that we put a slash, and then that there, like so. Oh, sorry, I don't need these. This is already inside PHP. I need a dot though there, like that. Okay, so let me just confirm that root exists, and yeah, apparently it does not. Okay. All right, so let's go back to config here. Let's define what root is. So root is the current path which we are at right now of the project. So my project is inside localhost www and http //localhost /plugin PHP. Okay, so that's my link. If this was a live server, you'd put the http www.yourwebsite.com there. All right, good. So if I now refresh my page, okay, so that works because it didn't redirect me to the 404 page, but let's do some gibberish at the end here and press enter, and it still shows. Okay, so that's great. Now let me come back to the same basic auth plugin here, and let me mute this content. Let's see if we're going to be redirected to the 404 page. Refresh. So it says the page isn't redirecting properly, and the reason is that we have created an infinite loop of redirecting. So let's figure it out. If we come back here, it takes us to the 404 page, and which means it keeps redirecting here. All right. So on the 404 page, it should retire. So let me mute this part here and see if the redirecting continues. Okay, so it doesn't here, which is good, and the page is empty, but it should just take us once to the 404 page and forget. So let me do this. So if page is not equal to 404, redirect to 404. Okay, so here I'm just going to do dd and just to echo what page is in this case. Okay, so it doesn't actually have any content inside page, so that's where the problem is. So let's go back to functions here. Why doesn't it return what I want? So key is equal to empty. Okay, so if I put a 0 there, then if not empty key, else return the whole thing. Okay. This is the problem here, because 0 is considered empty. So if we put 0 there, then it may consider that as an empty. So if not empty, meaning it is empty, so it goes to this instead. So that's not cool. Let me come back here. Let me try and use var dump instead, because it gives me data type as well. Let's put die over there. Okay, so it's 0 and then home. Okay, yeah, so that's where the problem is. So it's returning the whole array. So I'm going to remove that. Let's go back to functions here. Okay, so if not empty, and let's put an and here. Wait. Let's be more specific here. I'm going to put a no here. So if key is not equal to no. Okay, let's try that. Okay, still it isn't redirecting properly. Okay, what am I doing wrong here? Let's get back and see what it's returning. Let's try again. Okay, so 0 home. Why is it returning an array though? So I put these things here to debug so that I know if it's passing through here, and it isn't. Okay, and though it should actually, because if URL is 0, if key, okay, so let me undo this. Okay. So let's do if is numeric or, let me put that key there. So if it's numeric, we should allow it. Again, isn't redirecting properly. So back to this again. So please do not get frustrated with fixing errors. This is very, very important, because the better you are at fixing errors, the better of a programmer you are. So don't shy away from fixing errors. That's the most important part of programming. So this one returns home, right? So which is correct. It means now things are working as intended. So that returns home. Now what to do? If this returns home and Where is that function? Wait. Oh, it's over here in the app.php. So that returned an empty, but if page, let me see what page brings here. Let me put die over here. Okay, so it still brings home. That's good. So if page is not, so if home is not equal to 404, then redirect to 404. Now, where is the redirect function? Everything seems to be fine. Let's go back to the redirect function. Maybe that's where the problem is. So redirect location, and we put the entire root, / and then 404. And then imagine it comes back as 404 here, and then 404 is not equal to 404. This is not true, so it shouldn't pass here. So why does it keep redirecting over and over again? Let me do this here. I just want to see why it says redirected, if at all. Okay, so it doesn't say, and it's working just fine. Okay. So what is happening? So if it's not going through here, where is it redirecting from else? I don't get it. Okay, so it seems to have healed. So I'm gonna remove this, I'm gonna remove that. Okay. Okay, so there's die over here, that's why. Okay, that's the problem, so let me do that. Okay, so redirect it. All right, good. Okay, so it's coming here. Why? When this is not equal to 404, which is true. So this is returning home. It's as good as doing this. Home is not equal to that, which is true. Okay. So my bad. I should do it like this. Alright, so let me put this back to what I think it should be. It should be like that. But let's go to the 404 page itself. I'm gonna do 404. Okay, so on the 404 page, that's fine. It doesn't redirect. But when we go to another page, it redirects indefinitely, but not on the 404 page. Also, let's move this above the after view here, because we want to do this test immediately after the view, because there will be some content in the after view, aka the footer or something like that. So now this is the main component of the application. So all of this is running in here. So all the plugins are simply porting to these functions here. So in whichever plugin you create, you're going to have to use one of these hooks in order to plug your code into the main system, because this is the entire sequence of events. There's before controller, a controller after controller, before view, and during a view, and so on. So all the code from other plugins is just inserted into these functions here. That's what we are doing, and you choose which one you want to use depending on the order of your where you want your functionality to run. But here, this is still not working. So let me try it one more time here. On the 404 page, it works like a charm, but everywhere else, it's redirecting. It's supposed to redirect to the 404 page. So what I'm going to do is, let me just remove this from here. I'm going to do that. And right at this point, I will just redirect to the 404 page. Let me see what happens. So refresh, and it doesn't go to the 404. Oh, wait a minute. It does, but every time it keeps redirecting, I guess, which means it's just going through and through and through, which is not good. It seems when I redirect to the 404 page, the page number doesn't change. The page doesn't change to 404. So what I'll do is, here I'm just going to do echo page like that. Okay. Let me see what I get. So here I get home. What about on 404? What do I get? I get 404. And here I get home. And when I say redirect, this is the problem. The redirect function doesn't seem to work that well. Let me try and redirect to some other number. Let's see. Let's make it so it only redirects on the 404 page, right? So if I go to 404, okay. So it keeps redirecting to the home page for some reason. So what have I missed here? So one more thing I can do to try and fix this problem. Let me just mute this for a second. And let me go to, I think the problem is with the redirect function itself. Let me try and echo exactly this. What's going on here? Oh, I see now, it makes sense. You see there's URL here and there's page there. Oh my God, sorry, my bad, guys. So as you can see here, it can be a little bit frustrating if you can't find the thing that you're looking for or the errors keep coming in. But please persist, because that's an important step of coding. You have to know how to debug as efficiently as possible. So there it takes me to the 404 page. Now, regardless what page I am on, it takes me to the 404 page because there's no content in there, which is exactly what I wanted. But let's imagine the basic auth thing inside its view has some content. So let me go like this. This is from the view page. So if I now refresh, you see this is a view. Let me go to another page, maybe a home page or something. And as you can see, it loads on my home page. And let me go to maybe a products page. Okay, and it still loads. So as you can see, there's only one problem here, is that the plugins all run on every single page. Now that may be okay, but certain times you want to switch off certain plugins on certain pages. So you have to learn how to do that as well. But as we are here, plugins are running just fine. I can put control data here and then view data in there on my plugin. And then the other problem is that any variables that I declare in here are not available in this other section here. So we're going to know how to transfer information between these two sections here. I'll explain that in the next video. All right, so I'll see you then.